I'd like to call this meeting of the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District Board of Directors to order. We'll first do a roll call, and I'm excited to. I can see we have all directors in attendance in person, which doesn't happen very often. Dan Swafford.
Here.
Lee Jones.
Here.
Penny Givens.
Here.
Jeff McKim here. Isabel Piedmont Smith.
Here.
Julie Thomas.
Here.
And John Hamilton.
Here.
All right. So let the record reflect that all board members are here in person. So we'll move on to, we do have a bit of a time constraint because somebody who's here for the joint CAC meeting has a hard stop at 5, so we may have to recess, depending on where we are. We may have to recess the board meeting, go into our joint meeting, and then move back to the board meeting. And I know several directors have hard stops at 5:32, so we're just gonna do the best we can. Well, executive committee meeting minutes from October 30th, 2023. That's just an informational item. Mr. McGlassen, anything you want to call our attention to?
No.
Okay. Then we have approval of Board of Directors meeting minutes, November 9th of 2023. Is there anything, any directors want to say anything, making comments about the minutes? Okay. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain just because I wasn't there. Thanks.
Motion passes with one abstention. Thank you. Controller's report. Let's start out with cash flows.
Okay, the cash flow summary is on page 8 of your packet. The operating balance as of November 30th was $3,568,259.54. We did not have any balance in the savings account. That's been transferred. November 30th balance for closure bond debt was $21,142.26. Capital account, $45,686.18. The landfill post closure is $755,477.46. The individual cash flow statements for each one of those is on pages 9 through 14 of your packet. The operating fund graph is on page 11. Questions about the account balances?
Let's see. Any questions from the right?
Yeah.
From the left? Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This being the last meeting of the year and therefore my last meeting, I just wanted to make one comment about this, which I've done before. This is a pretty hot mic, isn't it? Sorry.
No, it's good.
Okay. I'm looking for that, my favorite graph. What page is that on? You know, the one that's our balances by graph.
Page 11.
Page 11.
11.
Yeah. You know, I appreciate all that people have done and are doing to move things forward with this group. I do just want to note that since 2016, I guess, when I started on the board, our average balance, I would say, has gone up probably $2 million or something like that. We have a very healthy cash balance, and I think that's fantastic. I just think it's, we've talked about having a policy for what that balance should be, but I guess I would urge that we collectively look really seriously about how to invest that into the program with the focus on the mission of the group to reduce waste application, waste landfilling. And I know I'm not the expert on that, but I just think, to me, it looks like we've got very strong cash, and we should be looking at ways to push that out into the mission. So that's my comment from the end of the bench and the end of the year to just really encourage this group to set a target for responsible cash balances. But they are very, very strong, and they've grown a lot. And I think I would urge us to put those out into investment to try to accomplish the mission more. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other comments about cash flows? Okay, then why don't we move on to payroll and claims?
On page 15 of the packet, you have a total for the payroll and claims that was approved since our last meeting. And that was in the amount of $138,164.02. Documentation for those claims is in the packet on pages 16 to 31. And yesterday I emailed you the claims that we paid this week. The total amount of that was $175,988.90. That included claims approved under the resolution 2022-02 in the amount of $59,564.33, payroll of $23,826.77, payroll claims of $11,110.62, and $81,487.18 in claims that the board needs to approve. That brings the total of all payroll and claims that we are recommending for approval to $314,152.92, as reflected on the payroll and claims summary that was included yesterday in the email. Questions on the claims?
Great. Thank you. Are there any questions on the claims from the left?
No.
From the right? Yes.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions on the claims that were emailed to us yesterday. First of all, on page 3 on the claims docket line 14, it's payment to Harris Computers. It says for accounting software, yearly fees for 1/1/24 to 12/31/24. And I'm wondering why we're paying those fees when we have, as a point of discussion today, changing our computing accounting system.
We're still going to have to maintain that system to have the data available. I don't think there's any way that we're not going to be able to keep that system active for a period of time.
So was there any way to get a 6-month extension or a shorter extension at a lower cost?
I don't believe there was. That's not something that we looked into, because I honestly don't think that 6 months will catch it. If we do go forward with the accounting software transition, which we're going to present next, the actual just start of that probably wouldn't be until March or April. And then by the time we get through that, I think that the data that we're going to have available, because to go back and do the historical data is extremely expensive to do a conversion on that. I think we would be better off paying this, at least for now, to see where we're at. And our goal is at some point to get after we get the initial conversion done, which the initial conversion would include just bringing year-to-date information in. But then we still have to look at all of that historical data that has to be available for SBOA and gateway purposes. We can look at that, but I think it's going to be much later in the year before we would be able to do anything with that. So I think we're going to have to pay this for the 2024 year.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I had one other item that I wanted to ask about. And that's then on page 10, the claim on line 5, which is to Bynum Faneuil for rebuilding a lift station. That's a very high claim of $38,534. So I'm wondering if I could have more information about that and if that's going to be covered in the budget.
Yeah, I mean, I can, and this is actually something that was briefly discussed previously with the board when we were doing some category money transfers. We had indicated we were moving a portion of the money we were moving out of the landfill capital category into the services and charges category was to go to help fund this project. And it's just a situation where this is the lift station that services the original hill at the landfill, which is a clay-lined hill, pre-subtitle D, and it's a system that brings a lot of sediment through with the leachate that it collects, and it's hard on the equipment. Also a situation where some of the contractors that we worked with, recommended, that previously had recommended, and we ever were to redo that lift station, to look at doing submersible pumps that had above ground suction pumps on it currently, or before the work was done. And the submersible pumps and the redoing the plumbing from that system is going to be much easier for staff to maintain and clean out with the sediment that comes through that system.
Okay, so there is money, I'd forgotten that we'd moved money from one category to another for the landfill.
Yeah.
And so that'll be covered in what was appropriated for this year.
Well, yeah, we did that. Some of that category transfer helped to cover some of the costs, but that cost is absorbed in the current appropriations for this year's budget.
All right, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions on payroll and claims? All right, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move approval of payroll and claims as presented in the board packet for today, plus the emailed document from yesterday.
A motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. And I'm sorry, is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
McKim,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And we've already had a sneak preview of the next item, which is the accounting software, which we are hoping to take a vote on today.
And I'm going to defer to Ms. Martin, who has done the bulk of the research and discussions with the potential vendors on this.
We are looking at moving away from Harris, which is our current accounting software, and with just numerous problems. It's a very old system that we definitely need to upgrade to get better functionality, better reporting capabilities, better handle on the payroll, better ease of doing the payroll. We narrowed the choices down to 2 different companies, and we chose these 2 because they do integrate data directly into Gateway, which was a huge factor in being able to deal with the software. The 2 that are shown, and this is on page, there's a comparison, or kind of a rough comparison on page 33 of your packet. The 2 that are shown are Lao, which is used by the county, and it is also Keystone, which is used by some other solid waste districts. We looked at different points to compare these, the 2 systems. The first one basically was just functionality. Either one of them is a vast improvement over Harris. And I've done multiple demos with each one of them, and Tom and Kelly, our office manager, have all done at least one with those. Lao is definitely much smoother. Keystone has a feature where you have to, and I say this just because this is something, even when I went out and talked to people that were using it, that was one of the, you have to open the door to go to another function. It's just a little clunkier. Lao was much smoother. Again, both of them are an improvement over Harris, and both have much better reporting features and capabilities for retrieving data. Lao was definitely, in the reporting, was, I thought, outstanding. The reports are formatted much like Excel spreadsheets. The capabilities on searching within a report, within a column, manipulating the layout of things. And they also do produce reports that are identical to what the SBOA requirements are. Because right now I have to take reports and move that data manually into a written report that is the SBOA requirement. And this system, the Lao system, would produce those automatically, which is huge time savings. We reviewed the systems on customer service. And I will say that, one of the systems was a little more difficult in dealing with and even getting information about what they're about us even talking to them. Lau was definitely very was much better on the customer service, and you know, and I reached out to people that are using these systems. I spent some time in the office with Bree and Carly at the county reviewing Lau. They both love it, and they let me see how the entries were made. I talked to them about the customer service with Lau. She said they had never had any problems getting anything resolved within a day or within an hour or so, definitely within the same day. I also made a trip to Brown County to the solid waste district there. The county here is much larger than us, so that was a little bit different. And then when I went to Brown County, they're a lot smaller than we are, but they actually use the Keystone. They showed me various transactions. Again, the only negative she had to say was about that kind of clunkiness where you have to open the door to move to another area of the program itself. I talked to her about customer service. She said that it had changed some since the company had been bought, which was a couple of years ago, I believe, and she did not have any, she said they hadn't really had any huge problems with customer service. Those were the only two that I actually went to, but I did call Warwick County Solid Waste District and talk to their controller. They use Keystone as well. She's been there for almost 4 years. She said she hadn't used any other systems, so she didn't have something to compare it to. She didn't have anything bad to say about the functionality, and I asked her about customer service, and she said that she kind of had been warned about that, so she just about the potential of the customer service with that system. So she just kind of baked that into her timing, knowing that if she was going to need help, that she had to allow time for that. Obviously, price is a huge comparison factor. Lau is $52,845 for setup and $13,390 for an annual fee. That does include a basic conversion, which would get the two different types of conversion that we would be talking about. Just the basic is going to, if we started this in March, the basic conversion would convert the data from the beginning of the year. So all of that would be in there for like payroll purposes, W-2s, and reporting purposes for Gateway. A full conversion would bring all historical data in, which, as I said, is extremely expensive. I don't have a definite cost on that, but the cost that Lau quoted does include the basic conversion. Keystone is $20,636 for the setup and $4,000. Trying to read my notes here. $911 for the annual cost. That does not include any conversion costs because they will not give us a conversion cost until we allow them to fully access our server, and we weren't comfortable doing that since we're not under contract with them. Page here. Other features that we're looking at is a timekeeping system. Right now, we still do paper timesheets. This is something that is very tedious in that the rural sites have to actually deliver their paper timesheets to us over the weekend after they've finished their work, because our pay period ends on a Saturday, and they have to bring those down there and put them in a locked box. And just for approval purposes and those kind of things, it would be much easier to have a timekeeping system that we could do within the accounting software. Both Keystone and Lau do have timekeeping functions that would allow the employees to enter their time, and that's going to flow directly into the payroll module. The issue here is that Keystone does not currently have a mobile app, and the only way they could do it with the Keystone system would be to do it on a computer, and we can't do that at our rural sites because we don't have internet access there. Lau does have a mobile app that is functional, has geofencing so that employees would have to be within a certain distance of the facility so that they could clock in and kind of just safeguards there. So those are the things that we looked at, kind of comparing them. Overall, we definitely, I think, would prefer to go with Lao. The state has, I think the county having binding authority over us, having the same system that they're using for reporting capabilities would be extremely advantageous. Bree and Carly said they would be happy to help if we encountered issues in using the system, because it is going to be a learning curve for all of us. But and we did look at some other systems. Again, those were ones that did not integrate directly to Gateway, but those were AccuFund and Sage Intact were the two leading ones that did not. But again, we would prefer to go with Lao, and we would hope to get an approval for it so that staff could move forward with proceeding to get this to where we could implement it. Right now, Lao's saying that it would probably be roughly March or April before we would get things going.
All right.
Questions?
Thank you very much. Let's see if there are any questions from the left.
We talked about that. We talked about this during the executive board session, so yeah.
Okay. How about from the right?
Maybe in the executive minutes, I'm sorry if it is, but what do we pay now, just for comparison, for the services?
$400 for the annual fee.
$6,400.
Well, the claim that Ms. Piedmont Smith asked about
Oh,
earlier
right,
to Harris,
okay.
and that annual fee has gone up a few $100s every year. So I mean, last year it was $6,200.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions from the right? I guess my question is this already covered under the 2024 budget?
And it was not specifically planned for when we prepared the budget and submitted it. I would, barring unforeseens, I would say that the amount that you're looking at with Keystone probably could be absorbed into that existing budget. Lao, I would question if we could do that without resulting in the need for an additional appropriation somewhere later in the year.
Okay. And when would you intend to actually sign a contract? It sounds like what you're wanting here is essentially permission from the board to move forward.
If the board approves, authorizes staff to move forward with either of these today, we would engage them as early as tomorrow and seek to finalize an agreement and get the ball rolling.
Okay. And then would the board be voting on that contract individually or not?
Under our purchasing policy, the Keystone agreement, depending on what their conversion cost was, might fall under that threshold. The Keystone at over $50,000 would require a board vote to ratify the agreement. Or Lao, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Well, are there would any directors like to either make a motion or make any other comments?
Did the executive committee review this and decide you support it?
We decided just to bring it to the board.
With a recommendation or just?
I wasn't at that meeting.
We did not vote, I think, on a recommendation. We just thought we would bring it to
The executive committee heard basically this the same presentation from staff and agreed it was something to bring to the board up for discussion, but the committee itself did not offer a recommendation on either one of the proposed vendors.
Personally, I would like to see us adopt the Lao software. I think it would save time for one thing, and I realize that it is more expensive, but it would save us some of the costs that we're currently paying to the controller right now.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I would totally support a motion to
I would just offer with Lau that since the county now has binding authority over our budgets, we get lumped in every year with the audit that the county goes through. And I really think that if we were using the same software as the county, that would help expedite that auditing process. We have a lot of back and forth with the accountant that the county contracts with, and I think a lot of that has to do with we just can't produce the same reports in the same format that the county does.
I'd like to move that we authorize Tom McGlasson to proceed with obtaining a contract with Lau for software for our financial needs.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Great. Is there any other discussion from the right? Or from the left? Yeah, is there any public comment on this issue? Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McKim,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Githens.
Yes, and I want to thank Ms. Martin for doing this kind of side-by-side comparison. It makes the decision much easier.
It was a very nice spreadsheet. Yeah, I think that made the differences quite clear. Thank you.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. All right, now's my favorite topic, bulky item schedule.
If I might offer, it is now a little after 4:30. Our rebranding consultant is in the room to participate in the joint meeting, and he does have a hard stop at 5 o'clock to get to another commitment.
Okay. Is everyone good with the strategy of recessing this meeting, convening the CAC meeting, and then going back? Okay. Okay, this meeting is in recess. And so let's move back to the regular Board of Directors meeting.
Have some cookies before you leave.
And yes, there are cookies courtesy of Julie Thomas. Thank you very
Well,
much.
it's the Board of Commissioners,
Oh, it's the
not
Board
me,
of- okay.
not me.
Commissioner's cookies.
And I think there's at least one there that's both gluten and vegan.
Oh, there's some.
Pass it back down.
Back down.
Somebody needs to eat them.
Okay, well, I am going to call the regular Board of Directors meeting back to order. And we were just at the topic of bulky item schedule, item number 6.
Yeah, this is something that we've talked about a couple of times with the executive committee. But staff is looking at just the costs associated with operating that program, predominantly the transportation cost. The disposal cost kind of is what it is, and we don't know that there's much we can do that's going to drastically alter the volume of the waste. But doing a weekly rotation at each facility results in us paying to haul a number of partially full or empty roll-off boxes at a substantial cost. And we think that we can, alter that schedule some and save the district some money in the hauling. And on page 35 of the packet, you can see where we, what our the 2022 hauling costs were based on that weekly rotation, and 2 proposed alternative schedules that call for the bulky item bins to be cited at each of the rural recycling centers for an entire month. The one on the left, the original proposed schedule called for 2 months at each site, which would result in 4 months where the service was not available. And then after some discussions with the executive committee, looked at doing an alternative that would do it 3 times or 3 months out of the year at each of the 4 sites. So it is available year round, which lessens the potential cost savings, but does still save the district some money over what we're currently doing. And so that's what we have proposed, and ask the board, to consider that, and if you're inclined to elect to move forward with one of those scheduling changes.
Great. Thank you for that update. Yes.
Can you remind me how much we budgeted for this for 2024? What cost we budgeted? Anybody know?
Off the top of my head, I apologize, I can't, because that's, because our transportation line includes more than just hauling the
Yeah.
bulky item waste.
So
Our
this-
disposal line is more than just
Yeah.
the bulky items.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I really like what you have on the right hand, the proposed bulky item schedule on the right hand side, because there's something every month. And I think if we can, I'm still always bothered by the handwritten signage all over all of our rural sites, but if we can get a sign put out at the rural sites where the bulky display is not that month and say, bulky disposal is available at X this month, then, you know, everybody knows where it's at. If they have something, they can drive it over there, hopefully. I'd hate to have months where there's nothing, because I think that's where we make things too difficult for folks. So I do like the one on the right. I like that it still saves us $5,000 off of, potentially, off of 2023. But that's just my thought. Thank you.
And I have to say, I am in complete agreement on that. You know, I was not happy with the initial proposal, but I feel like this is a good compromise. It actually provides more service in some ways, because right now the fifth week of each month.
Correct. It
has no
eliminates
service at
that
all.
handful of weeks a year where it's not available because there was a fifth Monday in a month.
Yeah, so this is actually a good compromise where it provides more service. Yes, it is true that it may not be convenient in any given week for any particular resident, but most residents, once they've got it loaded into whatever they're going to dispose of, loaded in their truck, they want to get rid of it right then.
We get calls all the time. Where is it today? Because I'm going. And, you know, today's the day the mattress came. I'm getting rid of the old one today. So.
As another rural user, I much prefer the second alternative. It can be hard to find a place to store everything for a long period of time.
It can be, so. And we certainly understand those concerns, and that's, you know, part of the reason that the alternative was developed, and, you know, staff would be happy. Either way, the intent was try to save some money, try to make the schedule a little less confusing to the residents.
Well, and Julie's point is that, you know, it would be difficult now to have that kind of signage that will explain where it is, because it's, you know, it's week by week. I think it would be more confusing, but you could easily have a sign saying, you know, at the Bethel site, this month it's Ord Road, you know, in February it's in Ellettsville.
As I mentioned earlier, we're getting ready to purchase a bunch of signage. We can add a few more to the list.
You can even just do one sign for the whole year that just shows
Here's
what
the-
you
here's
have
the
here,
schedule.
the month and the location, and people will get it. So yeah, it's awesome.
I was afraid that if we skipped months, that we would have more illegal dumping also.
It's always
Yes.
a risk, yeah. No, I appreciate that that you all came up with this the alternative that seems to work for folks. I guess I'd be interested in if there's any public comment right now on this item, either on Zoom or in the audience.
I'm not seeing any members of the public on Zoom, just staff.
I mean, I know it's not a voting item yet unless somebody chooses to make a motion. I'm just curious if there's any public feedback. I mean, as a member of the public who uses the rural sites, like Lee does frequently, I really like the idea of the alternative on the right. I think that's got something for everybody, and it saves resources.
I would offer that, you know, staff is obviously, you know, it's not much effort for us to make this change. You know, we make some public notices, we notify the vendor that hauls. But, you know, if the board is interested in more public feedback or input in this, it's not a change that has to be made today. So I just would offer that.
Well, if it's not urgent, I guess, how do you all feel about putting it as a voting item at the next meeting? Or do you really want to take action right now?
I'd prefer to take action, but that's my
Yeah.
own preference.
Get the sign done while you're doing the others, you know? Might as well.
Then somebody would make a motion.
I move that we change our bulky item schedule to be monthly as indicated on page 35 under alternate 2024 proposed bulky item schedule.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments from directors? All right, I'll go once more to the public. Anyone, is there any public comment either on Zoom or in the Nat U Hill room? Okay, seeing none, let's do a roll call vote.
Swafford,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Abstain.
Thomas,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McKim.
Yes.
Motion passes with 6 yeses and 1 abstention.
Thank you. Because we have several members who have to leave, I'd entertain a motion for you, asking unanimous consent to consider scheduling the January board meeting right now before moving on to the next. Okay, seeing no objection. Oh, I guess Julie, do you have? Oh, okay. All right. Let's go ahead though and deal with scheduling the January board meeting item.
I would just, Ms. Githens has previously advised that she's confirmed with Mayor-elect Thompson that she is available the second Thursday of January if the board wishes, for at least for January, to keep the existing schedule in place.
Is anybody interested in changing the schedule?
The first city council meeting of the new year is on January 10th, so we should have an appointment for 2024 by the 11th. Maybe me, might not.
Yeah, I guess I should have looked at when the first county council meeting is.
Yeah, and our first meeting is January 8th, so we'll have an appointment by then too. It'll probably be me
Okay.
again.
Looks like it's January 9th, so we should be, the county council should also have an appointee. So, all right, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the same schedule for 2024 as we did for 2023.
Are we voting only on the
Or
January
the
meeting?
January, and then,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
And then we can
And
double
then-
check with everybody.
Yeah,
All right, that-
at the January meeting, we can
that
set the
works.
schedule for the remainder of the year.
So I will move that we schedule the January meeting of the Board of Directors for Thursday, January 11th.
Okay,
A
motion.
second?
Motion and a second. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks. Okay, then we'll go back to the recyclables and transportation agreement.
I'm sorry. As the memo on page 41 of the packet just indicates, staff felt that it was prudent now that we do have a second recycling and disposal facility in the county, prudent to advise the board of the status of the current recycling and transportation agreement, the board's options related to that agreement. And as you can see in the memo, we are currently in the first renewal term, 1-year renewal term of the existing agreement, with a renewal date on that of May 1st. The agreement does call for a 120-day notice period if either entity wishes to opt out of that agreement, and would note that at that time we originally entered into that agreement, the recycling markets were different than they are now. We're, the markets are at a point now where, especially given the fact that we have source separated material, we should be able to get a rebate for a lot of that material. And the current agreement just doesn't allow for that. It's just a straight flat per ton fee for all the recyclable material. So, so that's something to consider, an option that might be out there if it was something that would be put out for proposal or bid. The transportation costs, we have a really good deal under our existing agreement, particularly with where fuel costs are. But would note that, we also recently did have to put, didn't have to, but we did put our glass out for quote, and Rumpke does currently receive that glass and is also hauling that glass. And that was, those quotes were received from the existing recyclable transportation agreement vendor, as well as another local hauling company. And so obviously, Rumpke was competitive in that quote and did get that, the glass hauling. I think, there's risks either way that we would to go. I do see, I guess I see three options. We can not do anything and just let the contract move forward. We can elect to opt out, and issue the RFP. We also could potentially just issue the RFP to see what responses we get, decide if we want to, at that point opt out. However, issuing the RFP may encourage the other party to opt out. But the competition is here. I think maybe it might be prudent to investigate the options that are out there for us, we wanted to advise the board of what those options were, and note that if there is a desire to consider options, that if we wish to opt out of the agreement with a May 1st renewal date, we would need to want to provide that 120-day written notice by January 1st. And that the 120 days, I would note for the record, was at the district's request, so that if either party opted out, we had time to go through a proposal or a bid process and make sure we didn't have an interruption of services.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Mr. McGlasson, I thought from our executive committee meeting that we do not have to decide by January 1st, that we just give 120 days
I was
at any
surprised
point.
to hear that too.
That is my interpretation. I'm not a lawyer, but the agreement is worded that it had an initial 3-year term, and it specifically stated that the agreement could not be terminated during that initial 3-year term without cause. And then when it discusses the renewal term, it states at any point during a renewal term, either party may offer or may provide the 120-day written notice. I would interpret that to say that at any point during the renewal term, you can say 120 days, we're done, whether it's May 1st or not. But I'm not the attorney. I did attempt to get a representative from the county attorney's office here to address that, but unfortunately did not have anybody available to attend this afternoon. So.
We finally got our 4th attorney on this last Monday, so.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear that January 1st was the deadline too. I had thought that we had, we'd be able to take it under advisement. Especially since we've now had 2 board members who have already had to depart.
That is my interpretation, but I'm not the attorney, and I'm fairly confident that the other party would probably have a different interpretation.
I was going to also say, as we consider this, the municipal solid waste, of course, under this agreement goes to Sycamore Ridge landfill, where they don't do any methane capture, whereas Republic solid waste goes to Medora, where they do have methane capture.
Well,
And-
Rumpke uses Medora that,
Rumpke,
yes.
that's what I meant. Yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah, yes, and that facility does have methane recapturing in place. And
So it's something to consider that, you
And
know,
my-
we would
and my
be-
understanding is that Rumpke is also looking at doing some fleet conversion to utilize that gas.
So if we think of the overall environmental footprint of our waste disposal, I think we need to take into account that the current agreement has, you know, no methane capture at the Sycamore Ridge landfill.
Yeah,
I mean, the way I would think you'd handle that is in an RFP, you'd have your evaluation criteria, and you could have some, you might want to use that as an evaluation criterion to measure your proposals against. I mean, you'd have, presumably we'd have several, but yeah, that could certainly be one.
It would have to be phrased carefully, I think, because from what I understand, and John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the city's current, our recent RFP for sanitation services, I communicated with Adam Wason about it, and he said there was consideration of methane capture, but it was like in the overall portfolio of Republic, how much methane capture is there versus the overall portfolio of any other waste management company. So it wasn't specific, like, is our waste going to be subject to methane capture or not?
well, I'm certain that, you know, there are, you know, ways, you know, language and ways to incorporate a number of things like that, you know, into a bid or a proposal, you know, packet. And I'm certain that, you know, in working with legal counsel, with other districts that have done similar bids or proposals, you know, that we could certainly find the language to incorporate any considerations that the board wished to weigh in determining the award for any of that.
Other comments?
Other, you know, other things I think that are, you know, known things that to take into consideration, you know, the new Rumpke facility is designed differently, and it's designed to take materials delivered in different manners. The recycling in particular, I mean, they're prepared down there to bale source separated materials that arrive in enough volume for them to do that and ship them straight from that facility to a recycler versus going to another sorting facility. They're also set up to take single stream recycling there and move it to a sorting facility. But our materials, you know, are pretty much source separated, and you know, would potentially have the ability to be baled directly on site and shipped straight out from there.
Any comments?
I guess I would like to meet with Adam Wason and review the recent RFPs that the city did to just gain some more information and perspective on this.
That sounds like an excellent idea. Is that, you just want to do that with Adam Wason and then brief the board, or do you want Mr. McGlasson with you, or how do you want to handle that?
Yeah, we could, certainly, I could try to set something up with Tom and Adam.
I work with Adam with some regularity. I'm happy to reach out to him. So.
I think that's a great idea.
Let's do that.
Anybody else have any other comments? Okay, thank you for taking that on. Oh, yeah, please. Sorry.
One other thing that I learned about Rumpke is they do recycle certain things that others don't. And one thing is cartons. So all the milk cartons, the wax covered, and there are plenty of folks, all the nut milks, soups. that has a large impact, potential impact, being able to recycle that. I did learn that we can actually take them out to Rumpke's facility on the west side as an individual, but nobody is actively collecting them. And I also know an individual that has a large portion of his garage dedicated to those that he is excited to get rid of and recycle responsibly.
Great. Thank you for that.
Thank you for educating us.
And that, you know, and that is certainly something that needs to consider that staff has not, you know, fully investigated. You know, I want to avoid any appearances of collusion or anything, but it's certainly possible that, you know, that different vendors, different facilities take different materials. And, you know, there may be options out there to increase the types of materials that we could get recycled for our residents. You know, conversely, a proposal could result in options that have less ability to get things recycled. But
Okay. Well, I think we have a path forward on that. So thank you. Why don't we move on to the multi-dwelling complex composting pilot program?
What page is that?
Sorry, that would be page 54. Mr. Winia.
Evening, board members. Joseph Winia here of One Sustainable Joe, administrator of the Back to Earth Composting Pilot Program. And I'll be brief. All the details are already provided in the packet, but I'll just highlight that so there's been one site already in operation for 2.5 months now. That has been going very well. And the update is to indicate that there are 2 new sites that have signed on to a service agreement. One is the Middle Earth House for the Bloomington Cooperative Living, and the other is the Covenanter Hill neighborhood with Renaissance Rentals Property Management Company. So both will be starting early next year, the Middle Earth, January 21, and then Covenanter Hill will be in the spring once the conditions, well, if the conditions persist, we might be able to do it anytime, but the anticipation was once that weather becomes, at least longer days will be beneficial, but in the spring, when there's more interest in outdoor activity, that's when we'll launch that site as well. And that there's also interest expressed from a couple of other properties as well. So it seems likely at this point that at least 5 of the 6 available slots for the program grant will be filled by the March deadline of next year. I'm sorry, May, the May deadline of next year.
That's great news. Thank you.
Indeed, absolutely.
All right. Any comments or questions for Mr. Winia from the right? From the left?
Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Thank you very much. All right, and then let's see. You may not want to go too far. Next item is a CAC report. That's what I'm saying.
Bill Joseph Winia, also chair of the CAC. Also just want to add that the last CAC meeting was canceled for November, so we don't actually have anything to report.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Now we have department reports.
Yeah, I'll just, you know, reference in the memo, you do have the standard media summary and educational summary in the memo that I'd be happy to answer any questions on, but did want to give the board some information that I just have found out over the last couple of days. Heritage Environmental, who does a good portion of the household hazardous waste that we collect, did recently enter into a relationship with a private equity firm called EQT Infrastructure, where EQT does now have a majority share of that business. At this point, no indications that we're going to see any change in the way things are managed or how our materials, are, recycled or disposed of or processed. But kind of curious, Larry, about what may happen with pricing. When you have a private equity firm that gets involved in those things, they're looking for a return. So just, something to point out. Also, if you recall, in the past few months, we did just start diverting our glass from Strategic Materials to the Rumpke facility. Received a hefty packet in the mail today. Strategic Materials had filed for Chapter 11. And unfortunately, they do owe us a little money. So not a great deal of money, probably a couple $1,000s tops, but at any rate, perhaps dodged a bullet there by making that switch when we did. And we'll, take that paperwork and work with our legal counsel and pursue our options to recoup any outstanding, glass fees that are due to us. So.
I'm sorry to hear about that bankruptcy, though.
I am too, because they were certainly a good and valuable partner for a number of years for us until we had a local option to take that glass. And I know that there's a number of other districts in the state that do still, currently and continue to use strategic materials that are wondering what the future holds for their glass program.
Sure.
But other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions? No, thank you. Okay, well, then we can move on to other department reports. I think Mr. Long, Mr. Paulson are probably under panelists. I can't see them. Yeah, Mr. Long.
Hey everyone, I will start with the recycling and reuse. We've worked with the Society of St. Vincent de Paul for a few years now. They came in and got donations, and one of our young recycling customers came in one day and asked us if she could donate her books and if we would make sure that they was given out to somebody that would enjoy them because they meant a lot to her. Her name is Zoe. She just outgrowed them, and we was glad to help her out. And we donated them to St. Vincent de Paul, and they sent us a very nice thank you letter that I think you guys will get to see or have a copy of. The Green Business Network, the newsletter that we put out, Kayla Strand worked really hard on with. She's done a great job on that. We've had a lot of responses back about what we can do for the customers and what they like and what they don't like and what we can offer. And so we're getting a lot of good feedback, and we can reach our customers and stay in contact with each business that way. We also assisted Pantry 279 with their Thanksgiving food drive. I want to say they done an amazing job out there. All the volunteers done a great job. We provided them our reusable bags for their food drive, and we collected their recyclables for them. That was very nice. The hazardous materials, we started working with Binary Heart at Indiana University. They take old PCs that they can fix and repurpose and donate them. We have a sign out sheet, or if somebody comes in and wants to donate their stuff, they sign it out saying they're willing to do that. The Binary Heart organization then comes in, picks it up from us, so we're able to pass those on to some other people, and it's been a good partnership so far with them also. The rural recycling centers and the main site for that matter, we have our annual Christmas tree boxes will be delivered in the next week or so. So we will start collecting the live Christmas trees shortly after Christmas. We will be doing that the dates of December 26th through January 13th of 2024. So you will now at the site see the Christmas boxes there. That's what I have. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Long?
I'm just wondering what happens to those trees, those Christmas trees? Do they get mulched?
Yes, they do. We send them to Good Earth, and Good Earth mulches them.
And that's free for customers to drop off their trees?
Yeah, free of charge. They drop them off. We then have the boxes hauled to Good Earth. They compost them up and sell the compost down the road or give it away. I don't know what they do with the compost, but they use it for compost.
Great, thank you.
Just for clarification, that has to be a live tree, stripped of any ornaments, lights, tinsels.
Stands.
Yes.
You don't want to mulch the plastic, huh? Okay.
I want to thank Mr. Long for providing all the reusable bags that he did to Pantry 279. There were hundreds of them that were used as part of the food distribution that they did at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And it actually made the distribution easier this year than in the years past.
So actually, your comments about the old computers, was interesting. I actually have a computer that I was trying to figure out how to get rid of, and it's too nice just to be junked. I mean, it's not too far gone. And so is this the sort of thing that I could take to household hazardous waste and expect that it might actually be reused?
Yeah, if you bring it to the household hazardous waste, we have a sheet that we'll have you sign saying it's okay for your computer to be donated to them, because we don't want to give nobody's computer out without their permission.
Right, I've already wiped it too. So.
Then if you want the hard drive destroyed, they will destroy it through the IU program that they do, or if you don't care, they will reuse the hard drive. That's totally up to you. It's so far been really good. Another thing that has come out of that is we're not able to help some of the larger businesses get rid of their computers because, we can't do every business here in town, obviously. Yeah. So now I can direct the businesses to this organization. So it's another outlet for that kind of stuff. And that's been great. So I've been sending a lot of stuff that way that we can't help with, but they can.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great news.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
It's really nice.
All right. Anything else? Mr. Paulson.
Lou, Lee Paulson, Environmental Compliance Landfill Directors. Been a busy month. November is always a busy month now that we do our groundwater sampling at that time. Everything went pretty smooth. We just had some equipment issues that our personal, the equipment that we own is being repaired. But the sampling itself, once we got backup equipment to us, went just fine. All that stuff is, as of today, I've forwarded all the lab data and the documentation needed to AECOM for their statistical analysis, and hope to hear back in the next 3 to 4 weeks from them to get that sent off to the state. From what I saw with that stuff, the lab results, nothing stuck out, anything really that I could see that was anything different than what our kind of in our normal for our groundwater. This was the long list as well. So it was a pretty hefty lab bill for all that stuff, because there's hundreds upon hundreds of parameters that they test for each well. So, but it went pretty good. The other thing I'll highlight is that I'm finally able to maneuver and get security cameras installed out at the landfill, especially around the treatment plant building. So hopefully that will help deter some of the individuals who like to break in my building and just mess with the stuff out there. A lot of signs, a lot of stickers and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that that is enough to just deter people to leave us alone, kind of thing like that. So, and the only other thing is, with the warm weather that's being as well as it's been doing, we're still having a lot of volunteers doing roadside cleanups and adopt-a-road stuff. So the fact that we're still going into the second week of December and 50, 60 degrees at times, man, this is pretty crazy. So they're still out there doing it. So we're still out there collecting and encouraging. So if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Great, thank you very much.
I'm going to ask Mr. Polson to tell the board what he and I went and picked up this afternoon.
Oh yeah, we got the second truck that we purchased way back in like March, April. The compliance truck, the 2500 with the lift gate and the winch. We had that delivered. We picked that up today. So it is a very nice truck, very long truck. So we're looking forward to getting that out on the road and retiring the previous red compliance truck. So, but it's a nice ride. So Danny and Mary Beth will be happy to drive around to pick up trash.
Do a few donuts.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, that's a long time. Fantastic. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Paulson? No, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. You guys take care.
It's good to see you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, indeed.
Yeah, you too.
All right. And so no other department reports?
No.
Okay, great. We'll move on to public comment. Is there any additional public comment, either on Zoom or in the Nat U Hill room? Seeing none, are there any comments
wait,
from?
wait.
Oh,
You're too fast.
oh,
Joseph Winnie here again. Just wanted to say thank you again to the district board and staff. It's been a pretty active and eventful year. I'm excited about the rebranding, excited about the year to come, and just, yeah, very grateful for your involvement and participation in everything and acceptance of ours. So thank you for that.
well, thank you very much. Any other public comment? Okay, great. Then we'll go move on to comments from directors. Are there any comments from the left?
No?
From the right?
Just thank you to all the hardworking staff of the district and good wishes for happy holidays.
Indeed. Thank you all, and thanks to our members of the CAC. And yeah, everybody stay safe. Happy holidays. The meeting's adjourned. Thanks.